if it is.
You just open your mouth, you go, ah, and you let it fly like a kite wherever it takes you. Being as least conscious about it as you can, and just connecting to the feeling of the belly and your curiosity. She's speaking, you're listening.
That was so weird to say. Okay.
Check if she has anything more to say.
Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
Okay. We're live.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed to do that clap. Okay. We're live. Okay. Ori Lavi. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, I say Ori Lavi.
Ori Lavi.
But Ori Lavi is...
I know my sister lives in the Shtachim, and she would kill me the way I just said it. I'd be in big trouble. I'd be in big trouble.
Works for me, man.
I send my kids to Gaza for you to talk like that? No, I'm kidding. Okay. Sorry. That's for you, Abigail. Okay, so I heard about you very recently because my friend Ellie, who was just here, told me that he went to one of your, I don't even know what to call it, like sessions, circles. Circles, could be anything. And he said it was literally like it shook parts of him that like other things couldn't. And Ellie's have tried many other things.
Yeah.
So
he didn't tell me. I'm happy to hear.
yeah. So he said you need to speak to this person, and I've been a little bit binging some of the stuff you've done, whatever I can find online, and I became totally fascinated. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
For starters. So I don't know how to describe what you do. So I want you to describe it, and I really would love if you kind of went back to like why you're doing it, how you came to it. I know this is a very wide question.
Yeah, it is.
I'm asking you kind of to introduce yourself in a sense of like how this happened.
You want to? How long do you want the answer? How deep should we go?
I'm going to ask a million questions as you go, so
Right.
it doesn't matter because I get curious.
So I also have a hard time explaining what it is that I'm doing.
Okay.
To myself even.
By the way, when I'm on other podcasts, I hate this question. I
Yeah.
can't believe I just did it to you.
No. It's the reasonable question to ask. You know. Okay, I think primarily I'm a music therapist, which means that my biggest passions in life are music, as a consumer, you know, and as a musician. And my other passion is, I don't know if to call it therapy, but it's, you know, like the personal development, personal growth, obviously of myself and the people around me. And I found a way to fuse these two. It wasn't a very planned, like the road that led me here was not very planned. It was kind of like discovered along the way. Yeah, so in the beginning I was just a musician. When I heard about this field called music therapy, I was fascinated. I was like, okay, this is me. You know, using music as a tool, not only as an art form, but as something that can help you develop, that can help you. Yeah.
Let me ask you questions.
Please go ahead.
When you say musician, like how early did you start playing music in your life?
So I started kind of late, relatively. I started playing guitar at 16.
Okay.
And I started playing the drums at 18. But I was always my musical ear was always on. So once I started, it went pretty fast. So when I was 21, I was already like a guitar teacher. And I was teaching music in kindergartens for some years. So it was always like a part of my thing. And like I said, when I learned that there is such a thing called music therapy, I was like, this is the thing for me.
When you heard that, like when you're a kid, because my kids play music. Actually, all my kids play music, and my wife's a musician, and everybody besides for me, I'm the only non-musician, and I'm like the opposite. Maybe it all went that way. But when you heard it, did it resonate? Like, oh, that's gonna make sense. Like music therapy. Like, was it therapy for you before you even knew it was therapy? Like that's
Yeah, I mean, when I think I was 21, and in those days we didn't have all the modalities we have today. I mean, you had psychology, like
Right.
if you care about the human spirit and the mental and the cognitive and the emotional place, it's psychology. That was like, still to this day, people are like, I think I need to go to a psychologist. Dude, there's like 50 other titles that are maybe much more relevant,
Right.
appropriate to what you need. No disrespect to psychology, but I mean, it's just one modality, and it's from 100+ years ago.
right.
And
Those doesn't mean anything now, because what does that mean? It could be any of the modalities.
yeah, in a way.
Right.
So I was interested in psychology just because it was the only thing that I knew that can get me, I don't know what's the word nefesh?
Yes.
Sure you do. What is
soul?
soul?
No, it's never just not soul. It's spirit, really.
Yeah, so it's somewhere between soul and spirit.
Okay.
So to get
How do you speak English so incredibly well? You come from like a English speaking family?
when I was 4 years old, I was in Ghana, in Africa, for 2 years.
Okay.
So I was in an international school, and yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Actually, it's my first time in the U.S. I just arrived here a week ago.
Okay.
To
That's
New York.
crazy.
It is crazy, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, that's hilarious that you learn. I'm just saying you learn English in Ghana. Okay, fine. That's just a strange story.
is.
Okay.
Anyway, so when I found out about music therapy, I was like, this is the thing for me, But music therapy is a master's degree. I didn't have my bachelor's degree. And I didn't want to go now to university for 7 years to become a music therapist. So thank God I found an institute in Spain that gives you the master's degree without having a bachelor's degree.
Oh, okay.
Like, this is the place for me. And at the time, I was a busker. I was playing music. I was living in Berlin. I was playing in the streets in Berlin.
It's called a busker?
Busking. Busking is playing in the streets.
Oh, playing on the streets.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that was like my career.
That's an English word that I just don't know.
Busker.
Okay, awesome.
Some people call it homeless, but it's actually busking. It's hilarious that people go past you in the street when you're playing, and they think, "Do you have any place to sleep tonight?" Like, dude, I just made like 250 euros in 2 hours. What are you talking about? Like, I'm making more money than most people. I mean,
Right.
for these days, it was great. And I went studying in Spain, and during my studies, and I kind of like started developing this workshop that I call Comusication.
Yeah, I love that name.
Thanks.
My wife saw that last night. Like, what a great name! But you could explain it. It's just a cool name.
Yeah, it's just, for me, it says it all. Comusication. It's communication through music. It's non-verbal communication. So as I said, like music and let's say music and communication are the most important things to me. I'm opening a parenthesis here. I grew up in a family that had very poor communication. So as the youngest child, when I was young, I observed all these adults just like not communicating. And I was like, what's wrong with them? How come they don't even realize what's happening here? And I realized how miscommunication is like the biggest illness in the world. Like, so many of our problems derive from just poor communication. And when I say poor communication, I obviously mean poor communication interpersonal between us, but it's deriving from poor communication between me and myself.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Like, if I knew better what I feel, what I think, where I am, where I'm at, give myself the legitimacy to feel that, and later on find out how to express that, that's the first phase. The second phase is to speak it out.
Wait, could I? No. So you okay? No, because I'm not seeing. Even though it makes sense that those follow each other, I've done a lot of work with people, like as clients, my own work, and I don't like sometimes helping ourselves, understanding ourselves doesn't necessarily make us a better communicator. Like I'm maybe I'm not seeing the bridge. Could you just explain that a little better? Like,
I think it's two different skills. One skill is getting your message across and how to do it in a empathic way.
right?
And the other one is to connect with yourself. And as you know, many people, including myself mainly in the past, are not connected to their bodies, to their gut feelings, to what they don't have the allowance to really feel how they're feeling. Like they would have wanted to say, they would have liked to say no, this is like out of my borders, but they cannot. They don't even know it. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I'm saying, first of all, it's a conversation with yourself. That's one skill that we should all develop. The other skill is like, okay, I realize that I have a no here. I have no idea how to tell it to you because you're going to be disappointed, or I need to please you, or for several reasons. That's a different skill.
Right.
But I take all of these things and I put them under the umbrella of communication, interpersonal and intrapersonal communication. Make sense here? Like,
It totally makes sense. I do have a question about your child. You say you're the youngest child. Is a big family, a small family?
No, we're secular. I have two older brothers.
Where'd you grow up in Israel?
Ramat Gan, it's a city close to Tel Aviv.
Sure.
And then Ghana.
And then
in
Ghana.
Africa.
Were you in Ghana for a while?
2 years.
2 years. What?
I think the groove came from there.
Really?
Yeah, I hope.
Drumming.
Yeah, I don't know. It's in the air.
It's in the air in Ghana?
Yeah, I mean, a part of me thinks that I'm black.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. You still don't get to say the N-word. I'm sorry. I'm just
Don't need black. Black, it's
you
okay,
can say
right?
black. You say black. Party. But you feel it. It somehow got into your bones. That
Yeah,
groove.
it just feels like home.
That's amazing.
Seriously.
Okay, that's wild. That's wild. So you were young then, but it somehow influenced you.
I mean, you know, 4, 5, 6. That's serious years. It's
Those are
like,
serious years.
yeah, it's important. Like, it's crucial in your development, I think.
Wow.
So,
And then you went back to Israel, man. So like that was
yeah, it was just an adventure, and then I went back to Israel, and then I kept feeling like I'm the new guy here.
in Israel.
Yeah, all my life.
Really?
Like Ole Chadash, you know this
Yeah.
term? I felt like everybody's just here, and I'm the guy who came from abroad. Always felt that.
It's so interesting. I grew up in a very, very weirdly tight-knit community, which it was weird. I like to refer to it as a little bit of a cult. But it's questionable.
You liked her?
Well, it's only cult if you stayed. Meaning, like, for the people that got out, dude, it was like amazing. It was a great community. But the people who stayed, it wasn't so great. And I always weirdly have this similar experience where I always feel like the only people that understand me were from that group. And it was only a small time. I mean, it was from the beginning of my life to maybe I was like 8 or something, 9.
Yeah.
But when I meet someone from that community, like, we're totally connected. And I always feel like an outsider almost everywhere else. It's for the rest of my life, like even till now. So it's kind of fascinating you say that. Because you think it was like, okay, just those people could understand me. Okay, so you get into this music thing. You're doing this for a while then. I mean, I'm not trying to calculate, but I'm saying you're doing this.
Doing what?
You're in the music therapy world.
Yeah. So
Where does that go? Where did that go?
So I think 2012, I started developing this Comusication thing. And, you know, it's been many years since then. I've matured, I've evolved, and this concept and this workshop evolved with me. So if it started out as like, let's play, let's examine communication in non-verbal way. You can call it like a jamming experiment for non-musicians. So maybe you know this feeling as somebody living in a house with many people around you that are musicians.
I'm the non-musician.
Exactly. So you kind of like, maybe you want to like participate in this thing that everybody's doing, but you're not sure exactly how to. I think music has this power that everybody wants to be a part of it. Do you feel that?
I mean, I think I want to sing more than everybody in the house. I always got music going on in my head, but
when you see somebody play the piano or the guitar, would you like, wow, I wish I could do that? Do you have this thing?
I do wish I could do that.
So I found, as somebody who's been performing, but also just jamming years ago, just jamming every night, jamming with everyone and wherever I went. And jamming is a really interesting thing because you get to be sometimes very intimate with people who are strangers. You just met them now, and then he gets out his instrument, I get out my instrument, we play, we go really deep, and then we never see each other again. And that kind of nonverbal communication, there are not many other fields where we can experience that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not only that,
My instrument just gives me the permission to get so close to our instruments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I actually say something interesting. I was in like a retreat. This is a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and they did this. I hate it because they made me be so vulnerable, and I don't like it so much. But it was this Dhamma retreat. I don't know. It was interesting. It's like a men's retreat, but I didn't go for the whole retreat. I just went for an hour and a half, like a teaser, at a different retreat. They like came into another retreat. They hijacked us and did this awesome thing. And one of the things you have to do is like look in each other's eyes, like gaze.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was terrible. I thought I had to make out with this guy. I didn't know what was coming next. It was terrible. Scratch that. We cut that out. But it was so uncomfortable. And then one of the things I thought of was the one place I don't think that's uncomfortable is when I watch two musicians jamming, and they could kind of look at each other's eyes, and it's not. I don't know if it's weird, but I've seen it. You know, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I always look. I'm like, that's a little too intimate. These guys are like really loving this, but they look like, where are you going? Like, and it doesn't feel weird
because we're focused. We're like doing something,
right?
And along the way, we're also looking at each other.
You like yeah. It's almost like a boxer, a little like you're like, where are they
we're
going
on it.
next?
Yeah, exactly. We're alert and we're flowing together.
Right. And it doesn't feel weird, but it feels incredibly intimate. Like that's what I was noticing about musicians. So it's interesting you said that, because I was like, it was just a room, and I was like, I gotta look in this guy's eyes, and like.
Did you not do this eye gazing thing like 20 times before?
I have. I want to die every time. I'm just remembering it from the last week. It's so I could do it with my wife forever, but that's because we're married.
Yeah.
For 25 years, I have a ring.
Yeah. Your ring.
That's a story. This is the story of the ring. Is that I promised my wife I wear a ring after 25 years of marriage, and it is my anniversary. So
it's your first day with a ring.
I got it last night. This is my first day with a ring.
Amazing, Mazel Tov.
Thank you. It was interesting because I was shopping, and like, you know, they all thought we're just getting married, because I was looking for wedding rings, and I'm like, yeah, we're newlyweds.
Great.
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to jump in. Maybe we'll find out more, but I asked him before we started if you could actually, if I could experience this a little bit.
Definitely.
But
I'm going to continue the story a little bit so that we'll get to this point, okay?
Yes.
So I'm saying this jamming thing that I realized that we have as musicians, I realized like, okay, people who don't play instruments, who are not musicians, they don't have this opportunity to be intimate in a non-verbal way. And I think it's really important, because we just bullshit all day, you know, with words and with small talk and talking about the politics and whatever. Okay, that's one way to connect. There's other ways to connect. Not many when we come to non-verbal connection. And I said, you know what? You don't need to be like an incredible musician and to know the music theory just to get this feeling of like, wow, we just vibe together. So Comusication started off as a jamming experiment so that you can just come and I'll help you just get into this jam, improvising, not knowing where you're going, which is very vulnerable, because you need to deal with the shame and the self-criticism, and I don't like my voice, and my ideas are boring, and etc. So these things come up. We talk about them. We let them be. We go again. And we keep learning through the experience of improvising. And we're striving for connection through improvising. So there's you improvising, and you're getting places, and you're figuring things out. Great. But then there's your improvisation and my improvisation connecting and creating something bigger than us. It's hard to, now we're speaking of it in words, which is always ridiculous to explain a non-verbal experience with words. But it's a very, very powerful and empowering experience.
So the experience is allegory to actual conversation that we could then now take that and transform that into actual conversations?
Yeah, I wouldn't say conversation. I would say communication, because it's not like I'm saying my thing, you're saying your thing, but we are both present and we're both participating, and information is definitely passing through, but it's not exactly a conversation.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's where it started off, and with the years, with my growing up, getting my shit together, like solving, healing myself, and studying and learning other modalities that I put into my work, it became more of a place to get in touch with yourself, get in touch with emotions that are sometimes a bit harder to get in touch with,
Right.
and to get in touch with them through music, but it's actually through vocalizing, through sound.
Why would that work? You have, I mean, you understand the theory behind that? Like, why does that work?
I don't know about the theory,
Yeah.
maybe my hypothesis.
Okay.
I mean, you know about breath work, right?
Sure.
So, we have this like tube, and it's ridiculous how breath work is generally basically, there's different systems, but it's just breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and you can get to incredible places, and you can start crying, start laughing, your body's shaking just from inhaling, exhaling.
Right.
So when I'm singing, again, it's not singing, it's like vocalizing. It's like, so I'm activating that same system, but if I'm really connecting, which is not easy sometimes, if I'm really connected to a feeling, an emotion, a person, a part of me, and I'm really there right in that moment, and I'm vocalizing, I can really like tell a story, and it's not my story. It's like my subconscious, or it's that thing telling the story. So you have both the channel of the oxygen, of the releasing, and at the same time, this creative, abstract storytelling that hopefully you're not telling the story. The story is told to you. You're like witnessing the story, like, oh, wow. And again, I don't know if the message is passing through when I'm explaining it, but
no, I kind of get it.
But many
because
people
of breath work,
surprise themselves, like, oh, wow, I did not know that this is where we're going. Like, I did not know that. I didn't realize. Like, what did your what did your heart say? What did your belly say to you? Like, wow, I just realized something. I just gave like 12 sessions the previous 2 days. Many of these moments of people are like, wow, surprising themselves, because it's not you singing, it's something expressing itself through you. So it's like an intuitive chant. Now you see why it's so hard to explain.
It's hard
difficult
to explain.
Huh?
It's hard to explain. No, I have some psychedelic experiences, and I have some breathwork experiences. Although, I mean, I think people think I do this more than I don't. I mean, most of my life, I'm just a normal person. But I'm kind of connecting all of them. And I happen to be, and interestingly, I don't connect to breathing so much. I'm actually not a good breather. Till I was 16, I didn't breathe out of my nose. So I always struggled with breathing. Wow. And then, but music, like when someone says music, like I was always belting it out. I was the kid everybody says, stop singing, please stop singing. Like actually the main thing people said when I was a kid is like, you're so loud. I never knew it.
From a young age?
From a young age, everybody.
Yeah.
And so I have an interesting type of, I don't call it like tone deaf, but I'm not tone deaf. I know when I'm off tune.
Yeah.
So tone deaf people don't know that, or if there is such a thing as tone deaf, I don't know if there is, but they don't know it, so they're just belting it out.
Yeah.
I know I'm off, like I know I spelled a word wrong. I just don't know how to spell it right. So I'm like, I'll try to catch it, but it's not there. But I know it's wrong. It's not like I'm unaware.
Do you want me to try and explain to you what's
please.
what happened?
Please.
If I get it right. So what age do you remember people telling you that you can't sing or that it doesn't sound well?
It wasn't just singing; it was everything.
In general,
Just I was so loud.
too much.
I was always too much.
Yeah.
Like I was the
Yeah.
kid who didn't get the soda. You know, like you don't give him another. You know, I had like a maximum half soda. People know me today. I'm beyond the most relaxed person, and they don't believe it.
Soda
Like,
because of the sugar, you mean?
no, just because I've completely calmed down, but in my mind it didn't calm down, but my body and everything. Everybody just sees me as very chill. But when I was a kid, I was that, you know, what you would describe as the ADHD kid. Not nowadays ADHD where everybody has ADHD, but that kid that you can't keep him in a seat. So that was me. So everything I did was louder. I walk into the room, I would say things louder. But I never knew it. And then when I would sing, all of a sudden I'm belting it out loud.
You're like that big dog that comes to play with the little dog and is not aware of its size.
Right.
You know, like just like jumping all over the place.
Right.
And
I wasn't aware. And even more, I found out this is also an ADHD thing. My sister is an ADHD specialist. She's confirmed that I had and have ADHD, but I still don't do anything about it. So I think it's a superpower, so I'm going with it. But like I always had stuff on my chin also, like dribbling. Like, you know, I didn't notice. There was a lot of not noticing going on because I was just in the moment. I was just so from probably as young as 3 years old, people were like, "Settle down.
Yeah.
You're too loud."
Yeah.
And
did that like turn you off?
No.
No.
I got into huge amounts of trouble, so I didn't. As a matter of fact, I'm actually still being said that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to shout this out, but like I've been told, like, stop talking about certain topics on my podcast, and like, it almost kind of encourages me to keep going when you.
And it did back then as well when you were a child.
I got hurt a lot, but it almost like fueled me to like. I guess that's lucky because some people would be shut down. I got shut down in other ways, but if the worst thing to say to me was like get quieter or like stop running in the street and acting crazy, and because then it's just now an opportunity to go full out. And they had names for me when I was a kid about this stuff, but no, it didn't really do that. But musically, I'm a little self-conscious, especially my wife's got like perfect pitch and like we sing together. She spends half the time telling me like, just adjust it this way.
This story is so common, man.
Really?
This story is so common. The tone deaf person with the perfect pitch spouse.
Oh,
millions
we
of
sing
times
together, but she teaches me how to do it.
Yeah, and you're like, you don't want to go get in the box. You just want to.
No, I
express.
I don't mind so much, but I think it's worse is that I like music to sing music that my wife doesn't like. It's all very dirgy and like very like a dirge, like marches, old marches, like the old nigunim they say, like
That's what she likes.
No, she hates that. She's like, why are you being depressed? It's Shabbat. Like, take a chill. Yeah. You know, like that. I'm like, I love a good like rumbling Russian march. Yeah. Like that's the. So I get more shut up that way, but and I don't sing so much anymore. So
I want to refer to this tone deaf thing. First of all, many people consider themselves tone deaf,
right?
And they're not really,
right?
I think there's like maybe 5% of the population who are really tone deaf. Then it's like you're tone deaf. The rest are on this like spectrum of like we don't get it yet, but it's a skill you can develop. So what most probably happened to you and happens to many people when you get like shut off when you're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, like you don't have a nice voice, you're off pitch, shut up, all these things that many people experience by their parents, by their older brothers, by peers, by the music teacher. I heard this story so many people, so many times. What happens is that you as a kid, you know, you're like just singing with your heart. You don't care how you look like. You don't care how it sounds like. You're just singing, you're just dancing, you're just expressing yourself. And then someone's like, that's not good. You have to shut up. And, you know, when you're a kid, the younger you are, you have to maintain your attachment. You know, if the adult, if they say that, I need to shut up so that I can still fit in. So you don't have really another choice. You can't say like, fuck off, I'm going to sing.
Right.
It's like, okay, they're probably right.
Right.
And what happens in that? So two things happen. One of the things that happens is that your heart kind of gets like you're not allowed to be yourself. Like, okay, it's dangerous for me to express myself freely. That's one thing that happens. The second thing is you get the message that you and music are not good together.
Right.
So in some way, you just stop developing that skill. If you were like learning English, or let's say English is your mother tongue, if you were learning Hebrew when you were 5 years old and someone said, you speak terrible Hebrew, just stop it. You're like, okay, you get the message. You're not good at it. So whenever you hear Hebrew, you're like, okay, this is not my thing. This is their thing. I'm not good at it.
Right.
And then years pass by and you haven't practiced your Hebrew. And everybody's 30, 40 years old and they're speaking fluent. And you're like speaking like a 5-year-old because you haven't developed since. And that's what happens to supposedly tone-deaf people. They just stopped practicing because you stopped like listening to a song on the radio and singing along with it and developing the skill of matching that tone. So you're not necessarily tone deaf. It's just that this skill is underdeveloped because you were told to shut up.
Right. Actually, you're 100% right. You know a lot more about this than me, but there's certain songs like my wife, Havdalah, at the end of Shabbat, right? Like, I really wanted to sing the Mujitz Havdalah. And I just was butchering it. And then I just said, I really want to sing this. It's beautiful. So I sat during the week and just went over it and over and over until I could sing a very nice that of like if I work on it,
okay,
I could sing it.
So that
right.
So you're not tone deaf.
I'm not tone deaf.
You can get it.
Right. It's just what seems to be harder for me than someone who like the rest of my family.
Yeah, because you stopped practicing it when you were young. So it's under practiced, but it's a skill.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So where are we, man?
No, because I'm fascinated. Okay, so my fascination to when I heard about you was there's so many people. I feel like we're in like a little bit of a renaissance of understanding our emotions.
Yeah.
Like there was a original renaissance, which was like when Freud and Erickson and all these guys came out, and Jung, and they were all they were changing the world.
Yeah.
And then like every renaissance, that became old fashioned. Like they were like, this is the rules and we don't move.
Yeah.
Even in my, when I started with going, I started, my first schooling I did for psychology was in 99. So it's it's a while ago.
Yeah.
It was very it was looked down upon if you were doing anything that was different from psychodynamic or psychoanalytical. It was kind of the end of the era of that, but you kind of look down your nose, or you're doing somatic stuff like this, or behavioral was you don't go there because it was you're touching the surface, you're not really getting into the depth of it, and you really the real deep stuff because you're not really capable of really doing the deep stuff. So then you could do this. So that was that time period, and in my field, addiction, it's been it's almost I don't even know what to call it. It's like a mafia situation. They have rules, this is what we do for addiction, and we don't want to budge, even though, and this is my biggest pet peeve of all time, it has the lowest success rate of almost anything. 20% success rate, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's not fantastic.
Yeah, it's not
if you have cancer and 20%, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So what I've seen now is interesting. I don't know if anybody's got it right, but I mean, even the conversations now, we didn't have conversations about breath work or psychedelics, or we didn't have conversations really about Comusication. That was not a conversation 10 years ago. This is, so that's why what I'm talking about the Renaissance is everybody is coming up with new ways to fully tap into your emotions or get comfortable with your emotions or figure out how to relate to other people. And I really think this is one of the things that really bothers me about the world not bothers me is that we evolved too fast. Like we were surviving 200 years ago. Like we just like, okay, make the butter, and then like we were surviving, and then the Industrial Revolution showed up, and all of a sudden like we don't need to survive anymore. Like you have a toilet that you flush. You don't have to like go freeze and break the ice, and like it changed. And what happened was all of a sudden now we could feel. Like I don't think we didn't feel before, but
we're less in survival mode. We have more time to.
So there's more time, and I don't think we know what the hell is going on.
We don't.
So it's like, to me, it's like
we're getting there.
Right. To me, it's wild that people aren't more curious. Like you could say, okay, we're doing psychodynamic, like that's it. I'm like, you better be asking 100 questions a day about your approach, because in the scope of this world, it's thousands and thousands of years of humankind. This is 200 years where we are just starting to understand emotions.
Yeah.
And just being able to express ourselves, and you figured it out.
Yeah.
Screw you. You didn't figure anything out. You know what I'm saying?
We're getting there.
Right. So what I'm saying is like the deliciousness of new ideas that are coming out and saying this has to be part of it. When you say something like, okay, what's the most ancient type of communication that ever existed? Probably music. I mean, I can't imagine that when one tribe wanted to talk to another, they didn't knock on rocks, and the other guy would be on the other side. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah, it happened.
But I'm assuming that they would knock on rock there, like you do a certain pattern. I'm sure they were doing stuff like that before even talking. Like that's what I think. I don't know. So when I hear something like, okay, actually we can use music, which seems to be the deepest part of us, to actually heal our emotions. I'm very curious about it. So that's why I was very like, I'm curious and cynical about everything. That's how it is.
I think that's a healthy. That's a healthy mix.
Yeah.
I'm also quite there. I mean, we can talk about so many things, man. I mean, because you heard about me from holding a circle, holding a ceremony. But now you asked me, and I started telling you about like my more like, let's say, clinical work.
Right.
So eventually, all of these worlds, they come together in the connection. What do I mean? I mean, when I hold the circles, so I'm holding them with music, with songs, with prayers. But what makes the people live in like this feeling of elevation is that we did it together. So they were not like going to a concert and sitting in the audience, and each one, like in the cinema, each one is having their own experience in front of the thing. We were having that thing together, and I think people miss that experience so much. And I think you will agree with me as somebody dealing with addiction, that eventually the real cure is connection. And I think that's the real cure for everything in a way. I don't remember who it was, but I saw a brilliant lecture about addiction years ago. Not one of the famous guys, not like Gabor Mate and these addiction guys.
Don't talk about Gabor Mate now.
Let's talk about him.
No, I'm just kidding. I love Gabor Mate, but he's going anti-Zionist. I'm getting angry at him.
Yeah, I know how to make the difference between like. I know. I admire him.
He's still I would call my rebel in this field.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and also an ADHD expert. So this guy was saying, the final sentence of the entire lecture was like, the opposite of addiction is not rehab. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Right.
And man, I'm like, tattooing this. And whenever I'm working, we didn't speak about this, but I was also working with addicts, mainly porn addicts, because I also had this experience. I was on porn for years until about 10 years ago. And when I managed to get myself out of that, I was like, I have to share this with the world. I mean, there's so many people suffering, and they think that there's no way out, and there is a way out, and I can help. So I started doing that.
Well, could I just say that maybe it's more in this community than other communities. It's very unique. It's very unique to share it. It's the last podcast I had was with someone named Faith Nice, and we were discussing the topic of. I was very fascinated by why the two most shameful addictions that I know of is sexual addictions and food addictions. When those are the two things I think you should be the least ashamed of.
Yeah.
We need those things.
Yeah.
But she was saying something very brilliant that I never thought of before, which was that evolutionarily, like those are the two most important things to keep our survival going: our food and our procreation. So you mess with those things, the community throws you out. Like you don't get to sleep with whoever you want because that ruins the ecosystem of our communities, and you don't get to eat all our food. Like you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like these were two things. Like you can mess with other things. You want to go off and gamble, like knock yourself out. You want to go and do some weird drug, like go for it. Don't eat my food.
Interesting. Never
and
thought
don't
about it
like
this way.
take. I never thought of it that way. It blew my.
Yeah.
But the point was, what I did think about is the enormous amount of shame that people feel around those topics. And like in our community, we have Ellie Nash. I don't know if you ever heard of Ellie Nash, phenomenal human being. He came out as an Orthodox Jew with porn addiction, and he made a whole, like, I don't know, it wasn't a TED Talk, but something like a TED Talk. And he just literally completely exposed himself. I mean, I was like, when I first heard him. But I think that's what was needed, like coming out and talking about it. Anyway, so I just think
I
it's
also
amazing.
had a lecture in 2017. Like I did it in front of like 500 people, and then it's online on YouTube. And then till this day, some people approach me because they saw that lecture. It's in Hebrew. They saw that lecture and they're like, "Man, help me out." And some of them are like, you can see in the email, they're like, "I'm drowning here, man." Like they're like, and it's a positive and a negative thing, but they're mostly very young. I'm saying it's positive because when a 21-year-old approaches me, I'm like, good for you that you're approaching me on 21, but also like, holy shit, like this generation is, you know, because I think we started late relatively to them. Anyway, so when I work with these people, I always tell them like the opposite of addiction is connection. So when we're working together, we're not talking about the porn. Of course, a little bit to get the picture, but what I'm aiming at in the process, it's kind of like a coaching process to get more connection happening in your life, to get a peer group, to get obviously into a relationship if you're not, to have some blocks in your week and in your month and in your diet in life that you are not alone, to do things together. Many people have a scarcity in that place.
Well, I think it's also connected to, the Industrial Revolution. We've broken up communities and families. Like, we've broken them all up. Everybody went to the city.
Right.
And, like, we don't know each other. And so I feel like my feeling, and you're, like, talking like this is candy for me. Like, this is all I talk about is community and connection. And I said a line yesterday on a video that was addiction can't only survives in isolation.
Exactly.
That's what,
exactly.
Like, it doesn't. It's like you could starve addiction by giving it too much oxygen. Like, that's how you starve it. So you're saying this connections, community. This is like my thesis in life is like how to bring back the community. I don't want to lose any of the good stuff. I don't want to lose that delicious fact that I could have my own house and a toilet that flushes and a TV that works, and I don't want to lose any of those good stuff, and I don't want to go back to survival. But how we threw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
How do we bring that village from Ghana back? I don't know if there was a village in Ghana. I don't know where you were.
It was.
But I think when I think of Africa, I think of villages.
Yeah.
I do, but it's not the whole.
I was a rich white kid. I mean,
right.
In Ghana, I was a rich white kid.
Right.
But it was. I think, I always joke that this Comusication thing that I do, they don't need it in Ghana. In Africa, I don't think in Africa and in Brazil, they need a white guy to come and teach them how to connect music. They just do it.
Right.
They just do it. And we also did it, like when you were 3 and 4 years old and when I was 3, and we would just dance and sing and whatever. But then some older white person said, like, this is not cool. This is not good enough.
Right.
I think they have it differently. I think they just allow themselves to communicate and it's a part of their lives.
You think it's because of the music or because they actually have villages? Like they're doing this
I think
with everything?
It's the community thing. I think, the education system that looks at you as your age, and your peer group are completely just the 9-year-olds together, the 10-year-olds together, the 11-year-olds together. I think that's not healthy. I think it's not. It's like monoculture.
Right.
Growing the same thing multiplied is not healthy for the soil.
Right.
The soil wants
Right.
variety.
Right.
And I think we would learn better in this communal environment where, I'm 7 years old and you're 4 and she's 13 and I have the chance to be the bigger brother for her, but the smaller brother to you, and we can like all learn from each other, as opposed to just. I think this system that divides us by the age makes more competition. Because
Right.
I'm the smartest in class or I'm the weakest. Whereas if you're just in a community, everybody has their strengths and
Right.
weaknesses, and I think that's a better skill set to gain for life.
So they have that in these. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research. I visit South Africa a lot because I have a sister who lives there, and we go to the townships, and the people are like. The fascinating thing I always found there was that watching people who are, I mean, they don't have running water, they don't have electric, they are like really poor, and sometimes they smell because they haven't taken a shower in forever. And I watch them working, and they're singing, and they're doing like a rhythm with the I watch the construction guys, and they're all smiling. And I'm like, what are you smiling about? Shouldn't you be miserable? You're poor. They're all smiling, laughing, probably making fun of the white people, whatever they're doing. But what I'm saying is, there's a joy that always like fascinates me. So that's what you're talking about. Similar idea.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I've been hanging around here for a while, and meeting people, whether in big groups or like one-on-ones, and I notice most people have like a scarcity of belonging. And it's crazy because we're talking about like the Jewish community, which has it better than other communities because it's a community.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you have this Shabbat thing and the synagogue thing, and you have this singing together with people like on a daily basis if you want.
Right.
And if not, so on a weekly basis. That's amazing. That's something beautiful that religion preserved that secular people don't have. Secular people, they don't sing. Where are they going to sing?
Right.
I mean, they need to go and pay and go to a workshop or a whatever thing to have that thing. But when you're religious, you just have that as part of your, masoet.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And I'm saying, even there, I feel that people are lacking like a sense of community. And I mean, there's no one answer to how to gain that back. I mean, we have to figure it out, because something that will work for you will not work for me, and vice
Right.
versa. But I think finding what's the word I'm looking for? Finding the right setting
Right.
that has the right balance between just a social event with an extra twist of like doing something together that is either benefiting the community or benefiting each other, benefiting the connection. There's many, many different options for that. But I think we have to have that in our diet. If I look at my
Right.
calendar, if I look at the week or at the month, there has to be a substantial, is that the word I'm looking for? Amount of togetherness.
That's wild. And I love that because I remember when I was a kid and when we learned Torah, we sang it. I don't know if you know. It's like we sang.
Yeah.
There was something real about it. Like, by the way, the stuff I sang, I remember.
Exactly.
The
Me
stuff
too. I still remember my bar mitzvah thing. I can
Yeah.
chant it.
I know all my kids' bar mitzvah things because they were saying it in the house. If it's too song, you remember it. And yeah, also like when I learned Gemara in yeshiva, like we chanted everything until you got it. It just went in and it was part of us.
Yeah.
So it was, religion has, I always say that like I'm part of a community that's so lucky to still have a community.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying other people don't have that. But even with our community, like you're saying, it's still, there's so much separation. Right. I feel it very strongly. But there is something very fascinating because the person I just had on my podcast, she was a convert. And she was a convert while she was working with addiction and she was working with Jewish people. And I was like, you're working with the roughest group, watching the hardest stuff. Like, why would you be attracted to Judaism with this group of people? And she said one of the things that really blew her away is that she worked in these rehabs, and you'd have people from the non-Jewish community, I won't even call it community, they would come and they would have like a couple of people that they have to call. But everybody in the rehab knows that those people are like drug addicts and they're dealers.
Yeah.
And they try to get them on the list so they could talk to them. They'd be like, these people are unhealthy. And then like these Hasidic Jews were coming into the rehab and they'd have a list of 14 people and they're like, I need to call these people. And they're like, well, no, we don't think so. But they're like, no, these are all healthy people that love me and support me, and I need to call them. And it took her like a while to figure out that they weren't lying.
Yeah.
These people, like people who are suffering, we still had so many people. She was like, this is a gorgeous community. Like she got inspired by something that's making me have a hard time, which I thought was wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we're definitely, I'm so happy when anybody talks about community as the answer, and not the answer, but I see community as the vessel to hold all healing.
Definitely.
Like if you don't have the community, everything you do just falls.
Yeah, but there's a fine line between having a community and feeling a sense of belonging.
Okay.
So I feel I met many people lately that have a community but don't have the sense of belonging for whatever reasons and stories. But maybe that's the fine tuning. Like the community is the vessel, but we need to find what makes us feel like we belong.
Right.
And I know this because I have a wound of belonging, like we spoke earlier about not fitting in when we were younger. So I always felt like a misfit. I didn't really want to fit in. I felt like I rather they fit in with me because I liked where I was, but for some reason it wasn't like the mainstream. And I think lately, thank God, I think when I went to India when I was 23, I spent 1 year in India, and there I found a sense of belonging. I was like just meeting people from all over the world, and I felt like I finally meet people who get me. And it stayed with me since then. And I'm so grateful for this because before I felt like an alien. And I think more and more with the years passing, I feel more a sense of belonging. And it is to people close to me. And it's also just to people like I just met you today for the first time. And I feel this connection. And it encourages me to live in this world because this world is harsh.
Right.
So when I just meet a guy from a different country and I feel like you get me and I get you, that's a big deal. It's like it's consoling.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean?
You're saying at a certain point, because this is how I feel also, at a certain point I wasn't able to do that. Like I would meet another person and it was like, stay away. Like there's a divide. Now I actually feel similar to you. Like I meet somebody and I just feel like, oh, I belong.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I love podcasting. It's like,
right.
ooh, I could just sit and talk for an hour and a half with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. We also have a thing with you're saying with belonging. We run these sober living homes. It's like a community. My favorite thing, and guys say, it's, I say guys, because only guys. Now we're starting a women's house soon in August. But my favorite thing the guys say is that they accidentally say, oh, I went back to my family for the weekend, and then when I came home, and they talk about this sober living home as home.
Yeah.
I mean, they went to their house where their family
and now
lived,
this is their home.
and they just say it, and it's accidental. Like instead of saying coming back, they say I came home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's home is belonging.
Yeah.
That's when home is where they. What's that line? Home is where they have to take you. That was the line. Like home is where they have to take you back. Like that's what home is. Like that's where it is.
Nice.
And unfortunately, people don't have homes, but because they don't take them. Anyway, so a couple of things I want to ask you about before you fix me. Okay.
Yeah.
Before you show us what you're doing. There was, first of all, how have you seen it working? I mean, a lot of this stuff is kind of new, like at least I mean, you made up a whole new word. Like how, like what have been the results from what you're seeing? Again, we're experimenting here. I feel like,
Yeah.
How have you seen it changing people's lives? I got in trouble the last person I asked this to because he's like, it's about the experience. It's not about change. And I was like, I paid $50. I want change. You know what I mean?
You just paid $50, you're good.
50, you get then you could have the experience.
Yeah. So there's two things. There's the let's call it the clinical work, the one-on-one, that does one thing, and then there's the singing circles. We didn't really talk about that too much, but that's more in the sense of community.
Right.
So there we're singing together, and we're kind of sharing, and we're having an experience together. So the healing there happens through being together, being seen, singing while others can hear me, which is a vulnerable thing to do for many people, for most people, and elevating together. So that's the circle thing. One-on-ones, it's more for people who feel like the people who come to me either are really attracted to music and they want to explore more in music, or they have an issue with communication. They feel like they're either misunderstood or not allowing themselves to really speak authentically, which is authentic is a word that didn't come up till now, and it's crazy because it's a very important word. When I'm speaking about communication, I'm speaking about authentic communication, which means that I can really feel safe to present things as they are. I mean, it doesn't matter how you say it, just means that I have the legitimacy to feel what I feel and to pass it onwards without, that's just how I feel. That's just the truth, man. I don't have to apologize for it. We can see what to do with it, but I have the right to present that. Most people don't have the allowance,
right,
to be who they are in pajamas in front of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I realize that I just have this tendency to just feel at home and just take off my shoes and like just be how to behave and act and speak as I do in different places. It just comes naturally to me. I have other places that are really challenging, but this thing is easy for me. For a lot of people, they put on a mask. They leave the house in the morning, they put on a mask, and they have to be something. Especially, right. I think maybe in the Jewish community, I know there's a lot of like pressure from the parents to be something.
Oh, for sure.
I heard this story a lot lately. And then again, we're adult people, 30, 40, 50 years old, 60 years old, and we're still like trying to get the allowance, the self-allowance to just be who I am. There's still like a conflict. I'm still supposed to be somebody else. So that's what we're working at. We're working at getting in touch with who you are, feeling at home and whole with that. And then when there's less conflict within you, you can just present yourself as a whole. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
You're not
I'm
meeting
wondering
me
if it's
as
working. That's my question. I mean, it makes sense. Authenticity seems to be, the Mark Twain line about authenticity?
No. Tell me.
He said, in life, the most important thing is authenticity. Once you can fake that, you got it made. That's
it's true.
Right?
It's really
That's
true.
what I was saying with the word vulnerable, fake vulnerable.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, this is Mark Twain. No, so I'm saying you're following up with these people, you're working with them. Are they, I know this is a silly question, you probably wouldn't do it if it wasn't working, but I'm curious about the results of like, is it helping people communicate more? Is it helping people be more vulnerable in real life? Meaning, if you're sitting in a session, like what I do, let's say if I'm in an ayahuasca ceremony, I would never do in real life. Like I wouldn't, I don't know. I don't know if I would do it because it's not, it translates in some level, but I'm wondering how much it translates into real life.
I get your question. You would never behave how you behave on the ayahuasca ceremony in real life, but did you feel that the ayahuasca that you drank in the past changed something in you?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. Eventually, it's all about embodiment, right? Because we can speak and talk, and it's like, okay, I get it. I understand now. My mother, blah, blah, I understand things. That doesn't help.
Right.
When I say embodiment, I mean once you have this feeling, and this happens on most occasions when on private sessions. You have this feeling of like, wow, I feel connected now. I feel open now. I feel it's kind of like a little bit of a medicinal work without the medicine through the voice. The voice is that medicine. And once you get connected and you feel like, okay, now I'm leaving this room and I feel like more empowered to be who I am, that's a big fucking deal. Especially if you never or seldom have that feeling. That's a big deal. And yeah, it's just one experience. But it's one experience. I mean, most people that come, they're already baked, you know. They're not coming from nothing. They're doing the work in different ways. And then they come and get another boost. And if they come again and again and again, they get more of that. And it's a skill. Everything is a skill. So once I develop that feeling, owning myself, being in touch with myself, conveying it outwards, it's a skill. Just like we spoke earlier about the tone deaf thing, you know what I mean? You practice that song. If you would practice one song each week, you would, you know, in a few months.
Have a lot of songs.
If in a few months, it's not about the songs, it's about the capacity to get it faster. And that's what we want eventually. We all have our issues. We just want to deal with them like faster, lighter. Don't have to like work so hard. Just like have it more available for me to be the better version of myself. Not better, but the more simple, natural, authentic version.
It's wonderful. It's okay. The other question, I feel it's resonating with me. That's what I want to say. It's resonating. It feels like that. Score.
I'm saying yes because I feel like I'm talking and talking, and it's
I'm
like
listening.
just words, man.
I'm listening. My cynicism is always there, so I'm always the curiosity and cynicism. I'm keeping it in check.
I appreciate the sarcasm and the skepticism. It's healthy.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. Tortures me a little bit, but it's good. It's good.
I think you have a good balance. I don't know you, but I feel like you have a good balance.
Yeah, I am the cynical optimist. I like to call myself.
Nice.
Like it. So I do have both sides. It sucks to only have one. That's what I think. I can't stand people who are super optimistic or super cynical.
Yeah.
So I like that I'm both, and I'm really happy about that. The other question I had was Ellie mentioned that you did some work with some of the hostages. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know anything about
not
it.
Not hostages. The survivors of the Nova Party.
The survivors of the Nova Party, right? Okay, I didn't get this story right. And this obviously this topic is torturing me and everybody I know to think of Jews, our brothers and sisters suffering. It also tortures me that anybody is suffering in that area. I'm not saying as opposed to the Palestinians who are suffering. I'm saying it's just, I can't. I almost every night I'm going to sleep crying for months because, you know, at night I take a look at my Instagram and it's just more and more and more suffering. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And, you know, in 2024, like what the hell is going on here? So I really am, and I haven't had any real connection with the people that went through this, you know, someone at the Nova Festival. Yeah. Could you tell me a little bit about this, like experience with working with them? And
so October 7th happened and it was devastating and shocking and like the country was, you know, shaking. It was very, very powerful and it was very, very, it was amazing to see and to feel everybody just crack open. You know, we were speaking about vulnerability earlier. You would just walk the streets and everybody's open. Like everybody's so brokenhearted that they're just open. And I would have conversations with neighbors that I never talked to before, and we would hug. And I hugged my landlord, you know, that wouldn't happen on a normal day because everybody's just like so devastated. So there was something beautiful about that, about like just the open-heartedness that came with that. And just a week after it all happened, which seems like a month, but it was a week, I flew to Cyprus. There's a place there called Secret Forest, which is like a wellness, kind of like a huge hotel with a spa and a wellness retreating place. And they decided to invite the survivors of the Nova. And they said, as long as we get like funding, we're going to keep doing it until the last one of them. And they really did it for months and months, each week inviting 50 to 70 Nova survivors and bringing together like a crew of therapists and, like professionals. And I was on that crew. I was not in a therapist role there. I was in the musician's role, which was really, really great because I had the privilege to be the space holder almost every night. I mean, they would come there for 5 nights, maybe 3 of these nights. I would be like sitting with my guitar, microphone, inviting everyone to join. You don't have to, but you're very invited. That's like what we're doing in the evening. And again, speaking earlier about like community and the power of like being together and singing together. And so that's what we did. And when I do it, because I come from the world of therapy and coaching and I studied man circle facilitation and I worked and I care about the nefesh. I don't want to say soul or spirit, but it's this,
Is it life force? Is that not it?
I'll get back to you on it. I think if I check the dictionary, it will say soul, but I need to get that word. Anyway, so when I facilitate a singing circle, it's always with some, with prompts. And I give them some cards to draw and like just whatever it is to get you like sharing and telling me where you are right now. Not telling me, telling us. There's something I think more healing in like being like, standing up in front of the group and saying something real about yourself. Not saying some words of wisdom that you read about, like just saying something about how you feel right now. And being like accepted in that moment. I think there's something really, really healing about that we cannot acquire on a one-on-one session. We need a group. And so for me, these circles were like singing circles. People were singing together. If somebody wanted to come and make a song, we would do it together. It was like a really fun thing and funny and everything, but it had that extra value of like, crying together. Somebody sharing something horrible and we're just like all like devastated, like somebody in the first weeks just saying like, I lost 30 friends. I mean, you have to think about these survivors, like they survived, but they all know people who died. Right. They all probably saw people who died. They how many times I've heard the phrase, we came to the party 7 people, we came back 3. We came to that party 9 people, we came back 4. Like I heard that sentence so many times. Imagine you're going to a party with 2 cars and you come back like just half of you. Like what? That's unheard of. And these people, when they escaped and survived, they just went home and they went to funeral after funeral after funeral and went to Shiva to sit with the families and carrying guilt that how come I have to hug this mother of my friend and I'm alive and he's not, like. So
there was a lot of guilt there.
Yeah. It's called like a
survivor's guilt.
Yeah, survivor's guilt. I mean, there's variety of stories, like some people took it to like opposite end of like, wow, I was saved, it's a miracle. It's a life force. Some people everybody's like dealing with it in a different way. It's also very curious to see because we keep reading about trauma and like and the flight, fight, freeze things and then you see it acting out. You see there's a group of a huge amount of people experienced more or less the same event and how they just all deal with it in different ways.
Yeah,
like some of them are like, okay, we've just gone through something horrible, but we're here. We want to heal. Tell us what to do. Like help us. Like what breath work? What are we doing? Let's get this out of my body. And we're like, dude, it's been 2 weeks. Like, give it some time.
Right.
And some people are just like smoking themselves away, taking drugs. Can you imagine after being on acid in that party, 2 weeks later taking acid again? Can you imagine? Like, I cannot imagine that.
Right.
So different people dealt with it in different ways. That experience was not about, solving their trauma. It was just about letting them 1 week outside of the sphere, the intense, dense sphere of Israel, which was then at war with fire, with alarms going on. And, you had to go to the shelters. So just a week of being outside of Israel and getting sleep at night and getting body treatments, shiatsu, acupuncture, just like to release the tension in the body.
Right.
So that was a beautiful gesture that they made there in the secret forest, and it was,
It's unbelievable. I mean,
It
first
is.
of all, great name, Secret Forest. What a great name for a place. But I tell you the truth is that it's weird to talk about you when there's everybody else is suffering, but how are you able to hold all that? It was, I mean, that's like enormous amounts of suffering around you.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like being there. I also got like some acupuncture and shiatsu and some of that like once a week. I think after a few days, I shut a part of me off because the first few days were so intense. Like you just go to eat something and you speak to somebody and just like the casual coffee conversation is like, holy shit, like what? This is what happened to you a week ago. I mean, one after the other, and it's just not even like a contained session where we're speaking, just like a random conversation. Like, you just lost your girlfriend last week? Like, like holy shit, like what? So one after the other, it was a bit too much. I realized that after a few days, I kind of like, okay, I have to watch myself. I tried to be less available to everybody at all times and more like do my work, which was to hold space when I did. And in the other time, I would still talk to people and everything, but like I wasn't available 24/7. And I started
fully open up so that whatever comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And I started like, because I stayed there for 8 weeks, man. I went for 1 week.
Wow.
I stayed one more week. They just told me, you want to stay? And like, I think this is the best thing I can do right now. It was, November. Like, what else am I going to do? There's nothing in Israel. Like, Israel is, I'm going to stay here. It's the best thing that I can gift. And I just started working also on my own creative project. So I have something to escape to, something to put my creativity to. So I'm not 24/7 immersed in that thing. But I do feel like a part of me was like, I had to like kind of like close a little bit, like put a little distance to to guard myself.
Wow. I am one more question on this and we'll move on, but because this is just blowing my mind. Is there something that you learned when you were there that you were just like, was like shocked you? Like, was there something that like blew your mind? Like, whoa, I never thought of that. Put you on the spot. Sorry.
I mean, there's millions of stories that I've heard that blew my mind. I guess it's what I told you. I mean, I would have to think about it for a few more minutes, but I guess it's what I told you about like how different people cope differently. It was just so interesting to see. Okay, these guys are on freeze, these guys are on fight, these guys are on flight. Like you can just sense it. And I guess this feeling. Like, there's the people that are easier to work with; they're more receptive, and there's the people who are like hard, like closed, and it's harder to work with them. They're not so receptive. They're not so. But then once you get to them, it's so much more rewarding.
Right.
Because you're like, wow, I just reached that guy. He was like so close, and I managed to reach him. So I think these moments for me are like really fulfilling because I know the other guys that are more receptive, they'll find their way. They're looking for healing, they'll find it,
Right.
The people who are harder, who are not even looking, once I feel like something I did or said or just was with them and I feel like they got something from it and I feel like they're opening up a little bit, that's so rewarding. So
definitely like working with addicts for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People, people always ask like, why why you like working with this kind of tougher population. It's one of the reasons is like, well, it's amazing to see someone break through when they are holding back for so long.
Yeah.
They were, rewarding is the right word. Anyway, okay, I felt the intensity when you're talking to me. Like it's, I really have been crying too much with this topic. Yeah. So but I wanted to hear about it. I'm also so happy that was happening for some people. Like they got to, like, I know that I'm sure they offer therapy and they offer this, but like to hear that they got to actually go and be in it. Because I'm assuming that these survivors, a lot of them have to put on a brave face when they're in their regular communities. And, like, you know, they probably got to feel like they got to act a certain way because the whole world's looking at them, or at least the whole country's looking at them, like, in their communities. To hear that they were able to go outside a little bit and, like, express that, to me, that seems like the most beautiful thing.
It is. It was really like the initiative of this secret forest place that's owned by a Jewish person, Israeli Jewish guy, Yoni Kahana, and he just like opened the place up, and it was really beautiful.
Wow. Like, is he related to Meir Kahana? I'm just curious.
To who?
Meir Kahana is the famous.
Not that I know of.
Oh, you don't know Meir Kahana? Oh, wow. If you want to have fun time on YouTube. He was very, very extreme, like an extremist.
Kahana. We just know his as Kahana.
Kahana, sorry.
Like Jesus, Kahana.
Meir Kahana.
Yeah. I don't think. I hope not.
I hope he's not related. He actually, Meir Kahana was my father's tutor when he was a kid in America. Anyway, interesting. Little factoid. Could you show me some I don't know if you could do one-on-one or group stuff, but I would love to experience some form of, I know we tried to get into this earlier.
First of all, you're invited. There's some more events happening soon.
Okay.
Let's do something one-on-one.
Okay. I just want to show me, maybe also the world, what you're talking about. Yeah.
So normally we would have like more time.
Miking. Yeah, I don't have a mic.
No, I'm not talking about the mic. I'm talking about normally we would have more time and I would get more of like, okay, what are we actually working with here? But okay. See if you can just close your eyes for a moment. Take a breath. See if you're comfortable. If you need like a little stretch or something.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like just like can you just like let something out, whatever it is?
Okay, I feel
like okay. You're not tone deaf, dude. You're not tone deaf.
I'm not tone deaf.
You're not tone deaf at all.
I just don't always know the tone.
You don't need to know anything. Just go.
Okay.
Okay, beautiful. So let me just get it more. It sounds like we're doing a musical thing, like you're repeating after phrases of just opening the voice a little bit. Okay, so just to see if you can go there. So close your eyes.
Can I share how uncomfortable I am right now? But
please do.
I'm sharing because I'm like, oh my God, the world is gonna see.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself on the spot.
I did. Yeah, I'm regretting it.
Which I love it. Don't regret it.
I don't.
First of all, we can always edit this out.
No, never edit.
But it is very brave what you're doing here. So check with yourself if, with the inconvenience, there's also some sense of like, if you feel okay with doing this thing that we're doing here. Like, check with yourself. If you have this like, yeah, we're doing it. It's cool. Is there like a calm part of you in that?
Yeah. Okay. I think it's a mischievous part of me that's excited about
cool.
it. Like it just because it's something I wouldn't want to, like, it's like jumping off a cliff. Like it's fun.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're doing. So what I normally do is, again, there's supposed to be like a kind of warm up and like some investigation of where we're touching, but we're gonna do like the quicker version. So what I normally do is I tap into something and I try to let that something sing. And I go like this when I say sing because it's not supposed to be beautiful or musical or make sense or tonal. It's just an expression. So at some point it's going to be like, I mean, if you want to call that music, it might be, but it's not about making a beautiful melody. It's about tapping into something, and from that intention, letting your intuition sing or letting your intuition express itself. So not necessarily going to get it like the first time, but let's see what happens, okay? So it may look something like this, okay? I'll try and connect to something. Etc., etc. My challenge as a musician is to try not to sing nicely and not to make beautiful phrases, but to really be connected to the feeling and express that. Because musicians, we're always used to doing nice things. That's my challenge here. But what this was an example of, like, I'm tuning into something and I'm just letting that speak through me. Okay?
How do I do that? Am I supposed to do that?
You're supposed to do it your way.
I have a very strong feeling now.
Good. What? Tell me a bit about that strong feeling.
I'm incredibly uncomfortable, like what I'm saying. Like I'm like I have like butterflies in my stomach that are just like,
okay.
This is doing something that I have always felt I don't, express the best way. And
I totally get it. I mean, there's the fact that you are like in the podcast and put yourself on the spot, and there's the whole story with the singing and the expression from childhood and the out of tune things. It's great. That's why you're.
I'm gonna be your fun candidate. That you got through to that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So close your eyes. Is that stomach thing still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a bit more about it. Like, if you kind of like tap into that, how does it look, feel, behave?
It's like swirling worms in like my whole stomach gut area. They're like crawling around, like just very jittery and uncomfortable.
Okay, great.
It's also a little bit in my throat.
Okay, great. So close your eyes and take both of your hands, and you can go like this. And place them intuitively wherever you feel like. It could be on the gut, on the belly. It could be on the throat, wherever you
Both
wanna.
hands?
Yeah. Okay. Now, I want you to ask your belly and ask your throat, which one of you feels like they have more to say right now?
My belly.
Your belly. So you can just ask your belly, do you feel like telling me what's going on there? Do you want to share with me?
I should say those words or just think them?
Just ask her and see if you have her consent. I mean, maybe she doesn't want to. Just check.
All right. She's all right.
She's okay with it? Okay.
He, she, they.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is, it's not easy, but try really like not to listen to yourself because it's really irrelevant. Your job is to focus on that connection between you and her. I'm saying her because in Hebrew, belly is female. Okay, you connect to her and let her speak through you. You're kind of like channeling your belly, and you're doing this curiously. So you're like, I want to know what you have to share with me. That's what's happening, okay? And take a breath and sigh it out. One more breath and one more sigh. Let's make a bit of one more last sigh, which is a bit like more and see if the belly is willing to speak through you.
And what do I do? If it is,
You just open your mouth, you go and you let it fly like a kite wherever it takes you, being as least conscious about it as you can, and just connecting to the feeling of the belly and your curiosity. She's speaking, you're listening.
That was so weird to say. Okay.
Check if she has anything more to say. And keep asking her, is there any more? Or are you done? When she's done, it's fine. You're giving me a nod of like, she's done?
She feels better. I don't know what that means.
So ask her, do you have more or are you done? Do you have more to say? I'm listening. I'm curious. I'm here.
I'm just thinking about all the people that are gonna laugh at me. That's what's happening to me. Holy cow! But okay.
Okay, wait.
Sorry. I'll
Close
stay
your
in.
eyes,
I'll stay
close
in.
your
I'll
eyes.
stay in.
Is there anything happening besides your self consciousness to the thing? But feel free to be true. You know, you don't need to.
Yeah,
don't
if
need
I
to make
wasn't,
something up.
if I could take the self consciousness away for a second, it felt a level of playfulness that I haven't felt in a really, really long time. That was like it felt like it could be. Didn't have to hold back so much.
It felt like.
It felt like it could be. Didn't have to hold back
Okay.
so much.
And how does your belly feel right now?
It still feels something.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
not-
Cool. So this was like an express.
Yeah,
I mean,
express,
we went.
express version.
Yeah.
I'm seeing what you're saying.
Normally, we would do it a bit more responsibly.
Okay.
And then we can get deeper. But you did have this like sense of like something that you would normally not allow yourself to
to
do. Okay.
Unless I was in an incredibly safe place.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you see like the therapeutic value of that? Do you see the therapeutic value? I mean, it's silly, maybe, but and
Yeah.
it's playful. But you see how important it is to like being able to let these
I
things
think
out.
the thing that first of all, thank you. That was kind of special. I feel a little like tearing up, and maybe also connected to things you were talking about before, but I definitely feel pretty emotional right now.
So I want to pause you 1
yeah.
second. So observe this emotional thing. It might be
Yeah.
because of the conversation from earlier, but can you check right now, like, what is this feeling of being emotional? Like, where does it come from? What happened?
What happened? The emotions are based on. I'm trying to not use head words. I'm trying to use emotion words if I can. Freedom. It felt like something was taken out of prison. Like it was like, or at least got to yell out of a prison window. Like
Okay.
like I didn't have to behave so much, and it was able to be that 3-year-old, like jumping in a puddle in the rain kind of feeling. Like
Amazing.
that I felt the beginning of it. I felt like if
Of course,
I was
of
an
course,
hour
of course,
later,
of course, of course.
I don't know what I'd feel.
Yeah,
like.
I'm even surprised that you're saying this. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not surprised because I know that this is the effect of this work, but we just did a 2-minute version of
Right.
it without preparation, and you still got to feel that. So imagine if we just had a proper 1 hour plus session, you would really get that. You would come out with that feeling. And can you see how this can affect, your communication in life? If you allow yourself this thing that was kind of like shut off from an early age?
Yeah, I think the part, especially the part of allowing people to see me in a vulnerable place, and then throwing caution to the wind and seeing what happens. I think if I was responded with a lot of love and acceptance in a group,
Yeah.
I would take more risks in real life. You know what I'm saying?
Say it again?
I would take more risks. Like, I don't want to open up
Nobody
so
wants.
much, right? So if I tested it with using this, like I made some weird sounds that I wouldn't make, which was really cool. But if I tested that in a group and I got to observe in the safety of a group that they did it, I think when I'm out in the world, I would test it a little more. I think it would be a lot of like touch and go, and like you said, building the talent the skill of being vulnerable. Like that skill. I feel like that's what it would feel like. If I could do that there. I have that with meditation. When I meditate, most of my meditation is about allowing the world to flow through me. Like nothing stays. I don't hold on to anything. So when I'm in the world and the world's coming at me, and I'm not in the middle of meditation, but I'm like in meditation, I would just let this go.
Yeah.
So I could do that in the real world. So I kind of felt that with vulnerability in this experience. Just
beautiful
for that. So
I like that sharing.
I could totally, I'm for sure coming. You're gonna have to tell me when you're doing. If you're
But I mean, you
around
see,
on
I mean, to the untrained eye, it's like, okay, he made some weird sounds, like okay, how is this? What's therapeutic about this? Like, okay, cool, it's silly, but there's an added value of like letting something that wants to be out, that was suppressed in a very young age. Your younger self got a message like you're too much. You're not allowed to be who you are exactly as you are. It doesn't fit. And even though you're intelligent adult, a part of you is still holding on to that.
Right.
And the only thing, trauma is in the body. The release of these things are through the body, and this is work through the body.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, this was just like scratching the surface. But
so when you do it in a group, how long is it? What is?
When I do it in a group, so in the past year and a half, I've been doing groups for 10 years, but in the past year and a half, I've been doing weekend retreats, 3-day retreats, mostly in Europe and now in the US. Yeah, and it's like, somewhere between 4 and 6 hours a day of work that is around communication. So for some moments it's like you are communicating with yourself, with a witness, like, in
Right.
pairs, and then they're doing it and you're witnessing them, like you're holding space for them. And sometimes it's like in little pods, and sometimes it's just like in the setting of the whole group. And I think I realized lately that what I'm doing is that there's so many exercises there that kind of like my intention as a facilitator is to wear down your defense mechanisms. Because, you're coming with defense mechanisms.
Sure.
Everybody is. And it's totally legit. But when you have 3 days of this work, at some point you're going to like, fuck it. I'm just going to be myself. You know what I mean?
Shot.
One after the other. And I love it because everybody has a different button to push.
Right.
You have this defense mechanism towards that thing. They have a different story. She has a different story. So there's all these types of exercises and interactions. That at least one of them, if not 5 of them, are gonna like, okay, that one was like, I felt that. There I felt it. And then your body has this feeling of like, remember that weekend I was with all these people that I didn't even know, but I felt free, and I felt free to be silly, and I felt free to be myself.
Right.
Because the truth is I'm a loud guy.
Right.
And then I allowed myself to be the loud guy, or I'm this guy, or I'm that girl. And that's what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to be seen, to be with people as you are. Many people don't have that feeling that they're with a group of strangers that I can be myself and I'm accepted the way I am. That feeling is a big deal because then you've had that. You can make it happen again.
So it's interesting because I don't know how I'm in this field, and because I'm constantly challenging people to, go further in themselves, I feel like I'm forced to do that as well. Yeah. And I've done things that I never would imagine that I would have done. And like, I feel really uncomfortable in a lot of the things that I've tried. But I feel it's, I feel like you can't keep preaching it and not doing it.
I respect that a lot.
Right. But I do know that most people I know would be kind of like they'd watch what just happened and they'd be like, hells no. I ain't going anywhere near that.
Tell me about it. It's my job.
Right. I'm wondering. So I wonder if, I guess, maybe it's not a good idea to show them what's coming, but I wonder if having it be music, like it's almost like there's a show involved, like it's a concert a little bit, and I wonder if that softens it up. Because you tell me breath work, I'm like, I'm not lying on the roll around the floor with a bunch of people.
What we just did is like the hardcore version of it. You know what I mean? And you're right. Some people are like, whoa, I'm not doing that. And if you don't want to do that, don't do that. Find your own way. But some people are like, I don't want to do it, but I also feel like I should do it. And then, they come. And so, okay, we speak on the phone. And then I realize, okay, don't come to the group, come to the one-on-one, or don't come to the one-on-one, come to the group, depending on what's your thing. And you're right. I mean, the singing circle, which is what you heard about, which your friend told you, that's way less vulnerable, because I've just been told that by a few different people yesterday. People find it easier to sing when you're like swallowed in the crowd. Nobody hears me. Everybody's singing, so I can also sing.
Right.
And what you just did was like, okay, everybody's hearing you improvise from your, like, that's the highest level of vulnerability.
I don't even want to sing in a crowd.
Yeah. But in a crowd, because we have like 2 hours, you would feel a bit uncomfortable. You would like, this is cool, but I wish I could. And after, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, you would just like, okay, fuck it. Everybody, I want to sing. You know what I mean?
Right.
You would probably open up at some point because that's what happens to most people. So it's way easier. And you're right. It's not for everyone, but it's for the people who feel the calling, who don't need all this like explanation, who realize intuitively that there's something about my communication, something about my voice. Like you said, I feel something here.
Right.
Many people feel something here, like chronically. Many people. And it's the like not allowing myself to express myself. And man, I'm dedicating my life to this. I think this is a big deal, because I want to live in a world where people express themselves. When I speak to you, I want to know that you're telling me the truth, and that you're not like, making up, like trying to please me or trying not to be, and you want to avoid conflict. I don't want that. That's conflict if that's what has to happen. And I'm saying this to myself as well. I want to make sure that I'm authentic. And when I realize that I'm not, by the way, it doesn't mean to say everything all the time.
Thank
That's
you
what
for
I'm
clarifying.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that. But when I realize,
Don't say everything all the time.
no, that's the case. But when I realize that I go back home and I was kind of dishonest now, because the truth is, I don't wanna say yes. I just don't know how to say no.
Right.
Which happens to me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit now and I'm gonna write a text message, even if it's going to take me 45 minutes until I get it right, that I feel like I'm honest, I feel like I'm respectful, and I feel like I get my message across. Like I put time into that, because I cannot go to sleep knowing that I'm dishonest. Speaking of, you have to walk your talk,
Right.
So I feel that way with my communication. And again, it's not about saying everything always, but when I feel like I'm holding in, I can only hold in for so long. Okay, 1 day, 2 days. I can't hold in for a year, man. If you're in my life,
Right.
we're going to have to talk about it.
Oh, I could hold it for years. Oh,
Maybe that's the problem.
I'm a
in your
veteran, bro. I'm a veteran. I could hold back
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully I'm going to heal and it's not going to be the issue. All right, let me ask you my final question, because I promised my wife that I'm going to help her with the holiday, and I haven't yet. So the final question is the rooftop moment. You're in let's say thousands of people listening to this. You want to yell from the rooftop something, like what's the thing you just want to yell to the world?
Wow.
Like just wish you could get out there. There could be many, but pick one.
Oof, what a question, man. Couldn't you email that to me last
I
night?
should have done, right? I don't mean to do that. That is a good idea. I should email that. Be like, that's going to be your final question.
I mean, I guess just because we were just talking about this right now, so that's where I am. There's probably millions of things, but there's one like mantra that I'm singing from a song called "New Family" that we had. I didn't even mention it, but I'm in a band called Orot, and many people here know us, and we have a song called "New Family," and it's kind of like a mantra thing, and it ends with "I honor you and empower you to be who you are." And I think there's something powerful for a person to hear these words. I honor you and empower you to be who you are. If you can get the sarcasm away and really like feel into that, I think we need that. We need to know that who I am is enough, is good enough, and that the world wants me to be who I am, not wanting me to be somebody else. And the truth is, like we said earlier, community needs diversity. I don't want everybody to be that's how do you a cookie cutter thing,
Yeah.
I don't want that. I like your twist. You are you have your thing, and I wish more people were like more comfortable to be themselves. It would be so much more interesting, man, if everybody really wore what they want to wear, if they knew what their style was. They don't know. They're trying to fit in. And to me, that's boring and that's generic. And it's just like it's like your true self is dormant. And I love it when I meet people that are just who they are. And I would like to get that message across to as many people as possible, just to know that We want you, man. We don't want another version. We want you.
I love that. I love that. It's very godlike. Like be. I think one of the messages that we have in our village is that you're already better. That's one of our big things. Like, it's just this crap on top of you, but it's not you.
I love
That's
that.
the problem.
I love that.
So it's really like a little bit of our mantra. So I think you're saying the same thing. It's like there are kinks you got to work out. There's things you got to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe don't do crack every day
Yeah.
of your life, but it's not about that. It's really about finding you. And when you find you and you're with us,
I'm going to use that line, man. It's brilliant. It's extra brilliant with addicts, because I found that addicts, like the people who are dealing with it, they miss, like they are making progress. Things are happening. You see that. They kind of like, what's the opposite of acknowledge? They disregard it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They like, yeah, whatever. They just go, I'm still an addict, man. Hey, whoa. Just the fact that you're not completely off it doesn't mean you're in the same place you were a year ago. You're not. And I can like show you all the things that you've been through. And I think it's really important to remind that. So that sentence like really like captures it. Like it's a good brainwash.
Yeah. Well, I had a rabbi that say, we don't brainwash you, but a good rinsing is not so bad. It's just a little dirty.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, brother.
I'm so happy. I'm going into the holiday of Har Sinai and like touching the top of the mountain, and I feel like going in a little bit more vulnerable is a pretty good move. Yeah. And it was really a delight to meet you. Thank you
too,
so
man.
much.
Likewise.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.